Cowlazars, come on, let's have some adventures. We'll spend days, we'll spend weeks, we'll spend months working our way through treasure hunts. Cowlazars, Cowlazars, Cowlazars. Mike.
Okay, let's just cut it off. All right, hey everybody. Today is June 13th, the 13th video in a row. One video every day in June. K-Pro didn't want to do this video, but I had to make her. So here we are. What are we doing a video on, K-Pro?
We're doing a video on, Mike and I have talked a lot about this, especially since we have done, we are a treasure hunt originators, and we are maybe looking at a big one coming up, but we'll talk about that later. So we thought we would go over our opinions of the top best treasure hunting rules, guidelines, way to do a hunt. And that's why it will be important if you have some opinions of what works, what are best practices. That's a better way to say it. What do you think, Mike? Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, what makes a good treasure hunt and what makes a bad treasure hunt as well. Yeah, I think there are some things that we've realized over the years, right, with all these different hunts.
Yeah, and I guess it's subjective. Like, I would think one of the, if a hunt gets called off or if a hunt gets found by a relative, that wouldn't make it one of the best treasure hunts. But maybe I see things differently. So I just thought this would be kind of interesting to go over, because we do have some really good practices within the community now, let alone we can look back at a lot of the past ones. So are you going to make a list? Are you going to type it up? Or are we just going to talk about it?
Oh, no, we're just going to talk about it since we had no planning in advance for this whatsoever. So we're just going to talk about it.
Okay. Okay. So I think let's talk about prize pool. This has been an interesting one because you have Sassy, who won the David Blaine hunt, and that made a bunch of lawsuits. So it seems like at around, I've heard a lot of people say right around the 100,000 mark is when the crazies come, and there's lots of lawsuits and those sorts of things. So, but it has to be bigger than a couple thousand, because if somebody has to travel, and we'll talk about virtual versus not, what do you think the perfect prize pool is, Mike?
Now, the bigger, the better. For a finder, for somebody looking for it, the bigger, the better. For a creator, well, the bigger, it gives them issues, I guess. But are you looking at it from a creator's point of view, or looking at it from a somebody who's looking for
both? Because as a creator, you have to consider both. So as a finder, bigger isn't better. Look what happened to Jack. Look what happened to Sassy. Smaller ones don't bring the crazy in as much. So then you don't have lawsuits like that.
It depends how it's designed. Sassy didn't have to deal with any of that. It happened, but she didn't have to deal with it. The creator did, because they thought ahead, which is how the hunt should be done. So as long as the creator handles it, it's fine, I think, in my opinion.
Okay. So bigger is better. Don't do a hunt where the ending is not released or the solve is not released. I think that is a best practice. The Utah guys, I loved going boots on the ground. They put out the location, a pin drop of the GPS of where it was, which I can't make sense of it. And now it's been a couple weeks and they're already starting another hunt. I would totally, if I could understand the first one, I'd totally be traveling for that one. But there's no solve. So I would say that's an absolute must. What do you think? Solution has to come out at the end.
Yeah, well, look at the Forest Fen hunt. Yes, the solution absolutely has to come out. In no way, shape, or form do you do a hunt and say, well, it's up to the finder. I'm going to leave it up to the finder. I mean, it was dumb for Forrest to say that to begin with. Yeah, you have to give the explanation and the solution for sure. That's a must, in my opinion. And you have to do it with the time frame, which I think has to be defined before the hunt even starts.
Yeah, and I would say this one's a no-brainer, but don't put it on illegal. Somebody shouldn't have to break the law to find your treasure. It sounds obvious, but since some of our biggest hunts have that issue, because that's the other one, like the secret. I know a lot of people love the secret, and I went boots on the ground for the secret, but it's in a spot that you have to pull a permit. I tried to pull a permit, and the permit cost 5 times more than the jewel that you would find if it was there. So not it sounds so obvious. Don't put it on illegal property, even if it's special to you. Is that a good way of putting it?
Well, that brings up a good question. For the secret, when it came out, I wonder if it was illegal back then. In other words, today there's a ball field, but back then, what was it? If it was just a park, I wonder if Byron Price thought there were going to be these issues, because I think he thought they were all going to be found within a year or two. I never thought he
Right.
envisioned 30 years down the road. So,
Yeah, I
but
don't think enough had been found to know, but I don't think he even thought about, like, before the Forrest Fenn hunt, I wouldn't have thought about all the legalities. I mean, Sassy sure did, but I wouldn't have thought about all the legalities like I would now moving forward. So virtual hunt or proxy item or treasure in the grant or wherever it is, treasure hidden. Which one do you think is best practice?
you're making a list, right? Because you got to go over all these at the end.
Okay.
So
Yes,
for
of
me-
course.
For me, for prize pool, I think the bigger the better. It'd be awesome if there was another $1 million hunt. It just has to be done in the right way. That's all. You and the person who designs this or creates it has got to be prepared for the lawsuits, et cetera. You know what I mean? There's ways to do it. Forrest could have set it up to be like, this is the lawyer firm. Any issues, they're going to handle it. Blah blah blah. You know, he didn't foresee all the issues that happened. But for me, I think $100,000 is about right for a treasure hunt. But the bigger the better. $500,000, million. I mean, that would be great.
Okay, bigger the better. And Sammy, stop it. The solve comes out in a time frame, and it's not on illegal property. That's the first thing that. Those are the first three we have. Okay, so treasure out there, proxy item, or virtual hunt.
I like a proxy item. I like it. Really sucks. I mean, look, Xavier Marks is all the way over in New York, but you know, it depends where you live. But I still like a proxy item. I think there's just something physical you have to go get and find.
Why not put the treasure? I agree with you. Virtual hunts out. The boots on the ground experience is the most fun. But why a proxy item over putting the gold in the ground?
Well, because with the proxy item, you know when it's been found. If you hide the actual treasure, it could be over and people don't know about it. So it seems like the proxy item is the way to go, because you can call it off and you can control it. If it's a proxy item, you can control it a little bit better than just saying, hey, if you find it, if you say you find it, you keep it, and I won't even know. Then it turns into a treasure legend. And then, I guess people have to decide if they want to work on that or not.
Oh, Packer Jack brings up a good point. I like proxy so it can't be metal detected as well. Okay. So if it is like a big stash of whatever, okay. And look at like the Forest Key. It got damaged over time and stuff was in Ziplocs and all of that. Okay. What about clues? Do you think originators, Xavier Marks, should be giving clues along the way when people get stuck? Like if it's out there a year, here's a clue. If it gets out there 2 years, Randy gives out clues at times. Some people say no clues. You should just disappear. What do you think about clues?
No, clues are fine as long as it's done in a controlled way where everybody knows about it. But also Xavier Marks, they point out that the SLC guys put half the cash in the chest, half the cash in the chest. You have to contact them for the other half. That's fine. That's still a proxy in my mind. I mean, you still have to contact somebody to be declared the winner and get whatever the other half of the prize is. Yeah, I think the clues are fine. It just has to be put out in a certain way. The issue, Xavier Marks, is when the clues are as hard as the hints are as hard as the clues in the book. That makes it a little bit frustrating. Because if you have a celebrity do a clue and nobody's been able to figure it out after a year and a half, it just makes it very hard. But Beacon Star and Xavier Marks are both the same. There's certain things that people just are not getting or not figuring out. It doesn't make it a bad hunt. It makes it a frustrating hunt. Those are two different things.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll jump to that and then we're going to go back to clues. So when it's too hard, if you will, it's interesting because Forrest Hunt went 10 years because one of his clues broke along the way. And that's the only reason I think it didn't go more than a year. We have like Beacon Star and we have Xavier. That how long is a good timeline? If the originator were able to say in their head, I want this hunt to last a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, etc., what would that be?
Oh, I don't think there should be an end date, personally.
No. Okay, let me. So if the originator got to say, I want this hunt to last, you don't want it to last a day. And there's no way you can control it, but I want to make it this hard. What would you say that would be? Like if we were to have the perfect hunt and say, in a perfect world, this is going to last 6 months. or a year, or you can't control it, but what as an originator would you say is the perfect amount of time?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You have somebody like Randy, the Beacon Star, that says a good hunt should last 30 years. Yeah, I think 30 years is a little excessive. I think 5 years, around 5 years is fine. I mean, that's enough time because the thing is the creator trying to get it in front of people? Is the creator trying to make money? Is the creator trying to get it in front of people? I mean, if you have a hunt that lasts 6 months, how many people are going to buy it in those 6 months? Right? What were you going to say?
Wow. Well, look at Xavier. Xavier has been very frustrating for me because I worked on it every day, and I hear you on the Zooms every day. You've been working on it every day for at least, I think you put it away for a little bit, but I would say you have worked on it 6 months. 6 months of individual days you have worked on Xavier, and that's not even going into what when you think about it. I would think 6 months is a good. 5 years means people are going to get super frustrated. Do we like frustrated? Do you think
Yeah,
it should be that complex?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, for a good hunt, I think it should be. The whole thing is you say complex, it just when the solution comes out, we need to know that it needs to make sense. That's all. If it's like a Forrest Fenn thing where the clues didn't match up to what things the creator said, that's not good. But no, I have no problem with the difficulty being hard. I mean, it's supposed to, and that way a lot of people can enjoy it and all that. It's just, it depends on what the solution. Uh, Copper Dan said it should last through the weekend. Um, Yeah, and that's another good point Xavier Marks brings up. Hunt, how long a hunt lasts should be somewhat related to the prize. So a lot of people have said the Beacon Star, the prize for the Beacon Star is just not commensurate with the difficulty level. And I might just have to say the same thing for Xavier Marks, but I don't know the solution to Xavier Marks yet, so I have to reserve judgment. But yeah, I believe that too. If it's $1 million prize, it should last a good 5-10 years, right? If it's a small $1,000 thing, you know, a month, a week. Yeah, I get it. I agree with that. You don't seem to think so.
Well, I think I think it needs to not be impossible. So, impossible is 5 years of, but I guess how complex, like Randy's hunt, you guys found out you had what, 20 things identified. And he's like, you're not even halfway there yet. It's like, poof. So yeah. So I think it's So, okay. So,
I think that's more difficulty level than how long it should last. Those are two different things, but I guess they're related. Actually, I guess they are related. How difficult it is going to determine how long it lasts, right?
Yeah, and so let's get into the most important one where I'm right and you're wrong. Right now, I'm telling you up front. Advanced ciphers. No, never in any way ever should they be included in any treasure hunt ever on the face of the earth ever. Okay, Mike, what's your opinion? Because I know you agree with me.
Well, I think there should be a mixture because you can also have an ambiguous poem that could fit anywhere. Is the other side of that coin, right? Just a poem, and it could just fit anywhere, and you just got to try, hope, and pray you find the right spot somehow.
Well, okay, but think about this from an originator standpoint. You want to get the largest pool of people included in your hunt. If I'm not talking like A=1, B=2, but advanced pigpen, whatever cipher that you need a key and an advanced degree in aeronautical engineering, and Mike is the only one with 3 other people on the planet, Brian, Sassy, and like you, that can only solve it, I won't even start it then. So I'm just saying in general, I think a better practice is having very clever things, having very like some sort of substitution type things, but advanced ciphers with a key and a this and a that, Caesar, all that. No.
But
No.
Advance is subjective based on the person doing it, though, is the problem.
But you get my general thought, right? My general idea.
Yeah, I understand your general point, I guess. Yeah. But do you consider the Roman numerals in Xavier Marks an advanced cipher?
I don't think we have, other than Fred. We don't have anything. So it hasn't been solved. So how do we know?
True. So I guess, you're saying it depends on the solution. It determines if it's an advanced cipher or not.
Right. So like we can use what you're asking me. Is this an advanced cipher? We don't have the solution. So how do we know if it's an advanced cipher? On some of Randy's stuff, like I think that big block of code. Okay.
It's not an advanced cipher though. It's really
okay.
not.
And I don't know if there's one in
relatively easy. A bigger example would be the poems which lead to locations in Denver. And then we have these numbers in bricks, and we're not sure how the numbers relate to the poems, like how we're supposed to count. I don't think that's an advanced cipher. I just think it's very difficult to figure out the solution.
Well, I think it's stupid when people originators put in. Do you remember when you guys were counting, like, oh, you have to count to like 1,000 and it's the 1,000th letter? I think that's
Right.
silly. That's not what I prefer to see in a treasures. Now we're just talking about the puzzle in general. But I think the most important thing on whatever the puzzle is, whether it's, I think, what was her name? Beth did those really gorgeous drawings. People have done poems. People have written books. The solution should be obvious and rule out all other possibilities. I'll give you the example. In Xavier Marks, when you do one of them in the front or the back of the book, I forget, it says use Google Earth. It makes it obvious you didn't get gobbledygook. It makes it obvious it's the right answer. Forrest Fenn, when you have a general poem that fits 5,000 spots and doesn't get ruled out, it needs to have like self-confirmation that it rules out everything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a subjective thing, though. I mean, The Incredible Hunt. I mean, those are pretty hard answers, and the issue we're having is it just seems like there's no rhyme or reason to the answer. You just have to figure a whole bunch of things out, and hopefully one of them fits. T. Brown in the chat, is that you for Incredible Hunt, T. Brown, or is that somebody else? Yeah, I think it should be difficult, but I guess the question is, should it be too difficult? Well, Masquerade took years and years to be solved, right? But then once people solved it, they realized, oh, this is the method. Every puzzle has a method to solve it. And it's not so much advanced, it's just difficult trying to figure out the solution.
Well, let's use Masquerade as an example, because Masquerade is known by everyone, and some people say it's the greatest hunt ever. That hunt was solved by the ex-girlfriend, and she only knew the answer because of pillow talk in her relationship, told her new boyfriend, and that's how it was solved. How can that be one of the greatest treasure hunts of all time? I think it's a great idea. I think it's a disaster of a hunt.
Well, I'll say this, just because nobody solved it doesn't mean it wasn't a great treasure hunt. In other words, once it was solved and the solution was put out, I think everybody went, oh, it made sense. Just because people didn't get it, I don't think because people can't solve it doesn't mean it's a bad. That was a bad.
No, how it was managed at the end. What was the one that Dark used to work on, and it came down to like folding the pages?
Oh, Fandango.
Yeah, Fandango. What did you think about Fandango?
I like the idea where you had to fold pages to get numbers, but I didn't like how you had to read some of those numbers. They weren't easy to read. I understand GPS being used to locate a proxy. That totally makes sense. But the way they embedded the numbers in the book, I personally didn't really like it. And that lasted, was it 15 years? There was an end date for that one. It was either 10 or 15.
I thought it was 10. So 10 or 15. I like that. I like that idea of here's the date coming up, in advance. Okay, let's go back to clues. Again, the Utah one, I'm going to give this example. I love the Utah hunt. I don't have Instagram. Some of the clues were on Instagram. Some of the clues were on YouTube. And some of them, I think, on Facebook. The hunt was called off on Instagram and said there's a solver. I'm not on Instagram, and several of the other hunters are like, it's not over. And Mike told me, no, it is. They've used different social media platforms for their hints. I would say a best practice is, yes, you can use you should have one place. Go to our website, go to our Facebook page, go to our Insta. That will have all of them. And we're also going to try to market to other areas. Xavier is a good example. I think all the hints are in one spot, but then they're also trying to branch out into other social media platforms, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. It should be one central place because not everybody is on all the different social medias, or even if they are, they're not going to check all the different social medias. Tell me the one place that you're saying is official, and that's all I want to have to check. So whether it's a website or Instagram or Twitter or whatever they decide to make it, or a book, the puzzle's in the book, but if we decide to give clues, we're going to give it here, that type thing. Yeah, I agree with that. It shouldn't be scattered.
Well, and if you do interviews, they all go into that one central location. Like we know a lot of the little popcorn hunts, people start going on and say, okay, I'll give you a hint. What hint do you want today? And you're in the middle. So I think they should be scheduled, purposeful, et cetera. That should be the tightest part of the whole process, is one location for communication. I hate to say, kind of like Be Randy. And don't.
Well, the other side of that is Randy never says, hey, I'm going to make a video and here's a clue. Randy just makes videos, and maybe there's a clue and maybe there isn't. You got to figure it out. Now, it's always his YouTube channel. Right, exactly. Or when he did the GPS wink, those aren't official clues for the book. I'd say 90% of the people that have the Beacon Star don't know about his Randy Pischel YouTube channel. But then he does post them on the Facebook group sometimes. So there's a line there, I guess. But at least it's one central spot. You have your choice. You can watch the creators' videos on YouTube and make your own decision if there's a clue or not. I do like it better how Xavier Marks is doing it, where here are celebrity clues. This is a clue. Figure it out. It's up to you to try and figure out what it means, but this is a clue.
Yeah, and then add on to that. Well, and I think that's let's look at Sean at WSOF. The guy won it, but I have never thought that Sean or Hillary have slipped. I think they are in a very good place where they are appropriate. He won WSOF, but wasn't. I would say mingling as much and chit-chatting about Xavier Marks. He drew that line. Just like Randy says, he has a meetup like once a year in Denver or once every couple of years or whatever. And there hasn't been any talk of any slips, private clues, secret information, that sort of thing. I think those are two good examples of how to, let's go back. The solution should exclude all other things. And what you say as rules should be specific and correct. I'm going to give the famous bench example. We were told that the clues took us to an exact spot. The exact spot was one of 16 benches in about a square mile area.
Oh, the Great U.S. Treasure Hunt. Yeah.
Right. I don't have any problem that it was more of a general area, but their rules said it was going to an exact spot. Now we can get into semantics and things, but an exact spot isn't a 1 mile by 1 mile area, I think, by any stretch. And I checked 14 of the 16 benches. I consider that a different terminology, but I just kept looking at the poem going, this can't be right because it doesn't take us to an exact spot. So whatever the nomenclature is, I think is important. What about red herrings? What do you think? Intentional red herrings.
I think I don't like intentional red herrings, but I think as searchers, we create our own red herrings. That's all. Because a lot of these hints, we trying to figure out what a hint means, like Xavier Marks and all these celebrity clues. I think we create our own red herrings because we don't know if it's the answer. And I guess that should mean it's if you can't 100% determine that's the answer to a clue, it's not the answer. You probably have it wrong. So,
Eleanor has a good one. If it is a book, you don't have to deface it. Like you don't have to rip pages out. You don't have to put lemon juice on it. You don't have to bend the pages, and then you have to think about we've one of our Xavier books is we had to get an extra one because it's been pretty ripped up.
Did Forrest Fenn's poem go to an exact spot?
In my opinion, possibly, since the blaze was down. If you got there, you waded over, and there was a tree that stood out from that creek, if you believe in 9 Mile Hole, and there was a tree that stood out, yes. But the problem with it is that poem went to an exact spot for many, 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 many solves that, I would say I've heard some solves that I thought were much better and fit the poem exactly. So it would depend on, since the tree had fallen over, I don't know if it was visible from the creek as you're walking up. If it was, I would say yes. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I don't think it led to an exact spot. The blaze was supposed to mark the exact spot, but I don't think the poem led you to the blaze. The poem led you to an area like the parking bench with 16 benches, and you had to walk around and try and figure out which bench. So in other words,
well, wait a minute. If Home of Brown was 9 Mile Hole, and you were supposed to, no place for the meek, wade over, and at the Home of Brown, look up, and there was a blaze there. Once you go up the creek, there's a creek I think there was you could take the 9 pinpoints, and I think that made it exact, like within 5 feet.
Yeah,
if the blaze is standing.
I guess the blaze is subjective, though. There were other trees that had things that looked like a blaze. We don't know because we don't know what the blaze looked like when Forrest hit it. So,
well, I think that'll come out eventually. He put a notch in the tree, so and it had the lightning strike in it. So it had the lightning strike, lightning from the book, and then he put a notch in the tree. So
I never heard the notch thing before.
Okay.
I've never heard about lightning. I don't think I've heard about a notch, but anyway. I mean, was it big? Like where you could see it from a ways off or what?
That's what I don't know, because unfortunately when the tree fell, all the bark, by the time Rudy got to that tree, all the bark was off of it. He put a notch in the tree. So
Allegedly. Yeah. I see what
allegedly,
you're saying.
maybe.
Yeah.
And but it couldn't have been that high because it was something he could reach. He didn't have a ladder or anything. So I don't think it would have stood out from the creek. So no, that was just bad. I don't know.
Some of these hunts aren't good. I mean, it's just that's how it works. They're not good. It's been fun to work on them, but at the end, you're just left feeling frustrated or wanting more or whatever.
Okay, how about buy-in? Buy-in, does one make a good hunt over another? Like Randy's $5 book, some people, or $7 book, some people have a hard time with. Some people say no originator should ever make money. So as long as it's all donated, like Xavier is doing. Or is it okay that, Forrest donated to a cancer fund or any of that? So what do you think is appropriate, or is there not an appropriate? Is it okay to charge $100? I mean, what is the top charge, and does it have to? Should treasure hunt originators not be able to make at least some of their funds back? Like Tammy's getting a hard time by some of the searchers because she's making money. Do you think that's okay? Not okay? What do you think?
I think a creator can charge whatever they want. It's their puzzle. It's their creation. They can charge whatever they want. I think it should correlate with the prize. So in other words, the Beacon Star prize is about $8,000 if you look at the price of the gold coin and all that. And his book is like $7. The Xavier Marks book, I think, is around $20. That's $10,000. I don't have a problem with any of that. Now, My Treasure Adventures, the prize is $6,000. They're charging $55. I mean, I don't have a problem with them making money, any treasure hunter making money, and they can charge whatever they want. I can choose. Now, for me as a buyer, what do I mean, I just bought Bart Kay's new treasure hunt, which I still think is a treasure hunt. The Treasures of No Name, and that was $100. His book is $100. We don't even know what the prize is. It doesn't actually say what the prize is, although I haven't finished the book yet, so maybe it does. So yeah, it's just what people feel comfortable with. From a marketing standpoint, should there be a cap on what you sell to sell more of them is a question, but I don't think there's any issue with what people, you can't charge this much. No, you can charge whatever you want. That's the way it works.
Well, and we're talking about best practices. We're not talking about can or not. I mean, you're trying to get the widest way. Okay, this is another one that I was thinking about. Do you think that you should be able to from the beginning, day one, you have everything you need to solve it? Or do you think it should be kind of time capsuled, if you will? After one hunt we worked on, that you could only get so far until you get the next one. You know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong with having things timed out, but it needs to state that in the beginning. You need to understand that when you buy it. Otherwise, it should be, everything should be solved on day one when you get the hunt. They need to explicitly state that, hey, you can't solve this until a later time. I think it's fair, but you've got to tell people that before they put up their money so they realize that's what's going on. It's just like with Xavier Marks, a lot of people thought the website, xaviermarks.com, might have a certain clue or something, but that website wasn't there in use when the book came out. So that can't be part of the main solution. They can use it for hints now, but if we're looking for a secret website from the beginning, I mean, Xavier Marks isn't it because it wasn't there back when it started. So as long as it's stated in the rules, I think it's fine. As long as it's stated up front, though, so people realize that.
And I would say ruling out anything that is personal information, like, oh, you have to find out about this guy's past, or you have to dig into this guy's life, because treasure hunters will do it. So saying it up front, like nothing is personal or related to anything personal in any of the originators' lives. I think that's
it's just people like you that do that, K-Bro. Most people would never do that, but you're right. You shouldn't have to.
You're such a jerk. Okay, what are other criteria that you can come up with after that, after what you just said, you jerk face?
I think there are some fan art says, I think there's some best practices that can be identified for good hunts, but there are also a lot of choices that are a matter of preference and should vary from hunt to hunt. Yeah, I agree with that. I guess we're more talking about from a searcher, a participant's point of view instead of a creator. Like, what are the best hunts? I guess it's subjective, but for me and K-Pro, what are the best hunts? I think a proxy item is fun, But that has its own logistics. How do you hide a proxy item that you know isn't going to randomly be found? You have to go check it. I mean, those are other issues as well.
Well, and I think we'll go to Chris Dotson. I think he tried to want to answer questions, but limited. So he tried the like $2, you get $2 question. And those people solve stuff like that. And so he's like, ooh, this wasn't a good idea. So I would say no payment for clues. Yeah, it's, it is that one. I think it was a good experiment for him to try something new and different. Okay. What other criteria, Mike? We have the bigger the better on the prize pool. Must put the solve out, not put it in illegal areas. A proxy would be better so you'd know when it's found. One place for all the clues. Clues coming out in some sort of appropriate time frame. I love this one. Don't make it too hard. That's all relative. The difficulty in ciphers, I guess, is up to the person. I personally say no to that, but that's just me. No intentional red herrings. Charging entry is okay in relation to the into the price pool. Have everything timing is okay, but it needs to be stated up front. Like you can't solve it until you get into, step 3 or whatever, and no personal information.
Home-based story. Well, I think home-based story has its issues too, but it depends what it is. It just depends. It all depends on each individual hunt. Yeah. Like if we went through the solution to Masquerade, K-Pro, if we did it, actually went through it, I think you'd like it. I think you'd understand it. Now, just because nobody could solve it because it was one of the first treasure hunts, that doesn't make it the solution was bad.
Well, so I think we're talking about two different things. I think we're talking about putting a puzzle together, whether it's a poem or a book or whatever, and whether that is good. And then I'm going to call it hunt management or originator management. How you manage a hunt, giving clues, giving hints, giving secret hints to your girlfriend that then breaks up with you and the boyfriend goes and gets it. Giving secret hints that now after you pass away, emails come out and people were told one thing or another. That's the management area, I think. So I think Masquerade could have a very good puzzle, but the management, there is no question, it is the biggest catastrophe ever, in my opinion. And I don't know all the details. I just get the soundbite of, no one really solved it, but the person that got the winning. Did he actually get the winnings? The new side piece?
I don't think so, but I don't know. We'd have to look into the story. I'm not sure. And I don't even remember what the prize was supposed to be, that golden hair, the golden rabbit. And I don't know if the guy actually got it or not. I don't remember if it was a proxy or it was actually hidden. Yeah, we'd have to look into it and see. Maybe we should just go over every single treasure hunt ever solved and rate them on one.
We have every single book. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Vegas hunt that you did and the Copper Dan hunt, there's lots of different hunts that we could talk about, but I wanted to do just kind of a high level discussion on kind of how, and so I think physical location is good. I mean, almost a must, but it is hard. Like Xavier Marks, we know is in New York. That's so hard. I won't work on it anymore, even though I really like it, because I know the expense to get there. Even if I did solve it, it's not a $50,000 or $100,000 hunt. Ooh, here's one. How much of it do you solve at home before you go? Do you think there should be a requirement, boots on the ground, that's something that you can't solve until you get there? Or do you think it should be all confirmed before you go so you don't waste your time?
I think the area should be confirmed, but I don't have an issue with you have to solve something once you get there. But it really should be confirmed that you're going to the right location, whether it's a park, whether it's a city block or city square, whatever it is. Because, for Xavier Marks, there were people in Texas, there were people in North Carolina, Chicago was a big one, and they were all just wrong. So I guess you could say those people either went boots on the ground before they solved what they should have solved, or the clues in Xavier Marks are kind of broad and could be applied different places. We don't know the solution yet, so we don't exactly know the answer to that yet.
Okay, there's a few things in chat. Packer Jack brings up a good one, kind of setting out the safety expectations. And I know Sean's been asked this, but other people, like in the forest hunt, don't go in winter, and it's out there all year long. and don't do something an 80-year-old man wouldn't do. It's accessible 24/7. It's not inside or outside, whichever one. I think defining the areas or the type of land that it's on would be a good idea. You don't want to exclude too much, but you also, the safety factor, since we know searchers will put themselves in harm's way, especially with a larger prize pool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess the larger price pool does pose issues. That's true. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. It does make, if the Forest Fen treasure was $100,000, would those people still probably, I mean, they probably would have, but I don't know. Would they have still gone and looked?
Look at Rob G's question. Oh my gosh. It's funny you asked that, Rob G.
I ran into, I have. The answer is, the answer is yes, I have. We've sold them. Like, we've run into Xbox, PlayStation games, nothing really, really super old, but we also ran into a game that was on floppy disk, one of the 8-inch floppy disks. I can't remember the name of it right now. Do we still have it? No, I'm pretty sure I sold it in the garage sale, but yeah, we have. But there is a unit that we're looking at upcoming that's basically a gamer unit. It's got a lot of stuff in it. So if we get it.
Okay, let's be clear. This is a huge unit out of state that we may travel to get, because it's all comic books and video games and vintage video games. It actually is pretty cool. And we were going to share it beforehand, but we don't want anybody stealing it from us. But we might be traveling to get another storage unit, and the kids are super excited.
Yeah, right. But to be clear, it's not video games. I mean, there may be video games in it, but it's a lot of Warhammer 40K. It's a lot of tabletop games. There's a couple games in the 90s I'd never heard of, but at least written on the box, it says this. I looked it up. I'm like, oh, okay, I've never even heard of that game. So I'm hoping there could be Dungeons and Dragons in it. I'm hoping there could be Magic the Gathering in it. It's those kind of games. I'm more interested in the boxes that aren't labeled K-Pro than the ones that are. So,
right. And most of them are labeled. We just can't read it. So JK, I don't think there's any coins, but this person's obviously a collector, so that's always possible. And I'm going to shoot you an email. I hope I have your email. Because I have decided I'm putting myself in charge of selling all the coins and the silver and the gold. We'll probably keep the gold.
Well, we got to price it. That's the hardest thing.
And that's what I was just saying, is I've decided I'm going to be in charge of that. And I need to figure out what I don't know. I don't know anything. So I know that. So how I do it and all of that. Dungeons and Dragons. Once Mike saw a box that said Dungeons and Dragons, he's like, we've got to get this one.
It said dungeon modules. Said dungeon modules. What does that mean? I mean, there's different. Yeah. So it's really going to be a fun one to go through if we get it. Again, there's always that.
And it's super. This is one that, like the one that we got before, was kind of fun because obviously nobody had been in it in 20 years, but rats had gotten into it, etc. This one is perfectly organized. Right. Every box is labeled. You can see the comic books. You just can't read some of the labels because they're just it's too fuzzy. But this one is perfect, but it is a larger unit, so we're going to run a moving truck. Oh goodness.
If you have the older stuff, Robert G, it's worth a little bit of money. Like, I had all that stuff in the early 80s, but I sold it all on eBay in my 20s. Back in the early 90s, I sold it all. I wish I would have kept it all now. But anyway, right here's 20-sided dice right there. Look at that. So still have a little bit of it laying around, but none of the really old stuff I got rid of back then. So we'll see. If we get it, it'll be next week. So you guys will know. We'll definitely do a video, several, on opening the stuff and seeing what's in there. But again, it's all amount of price, because we buy the stuff to resell it. So we have to get it at a certain price. So, and that's just a different kind of treasure hunt, storage units. I mean, we see this stuff that looks cool. We don't know what's in half the boxes. How much do you want to pay for that reward? Risk versus reward. The reward's a question mark.
And I do want to do a video because somebody said, this is so terrible. You should just be giving everything back to the person. And no, that can't happen because obviously we need to pay our bills. But there is a part, everybody has their choice of what to do. We do give some of the items back to the owner. We do donate some of it to shelters that we know that we can't get a good resale and we'd probably dump anyway. We work with a couple companies. There is a give back factor that I want to go over in a future video, but that's not for today because here we go. We have a pretty good list.
Hang on a second. Robert, are you saying you're interested in the retro video games, or you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons? Is that what you're saying? Let you know. That's what I thought you meant, but I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, I thought he was saying maybe he'd sell them to you.
Yeah, that, or are you selling the stuff you have? Yeah, let me know which one. Email me, cowlazars@gmail.com. If you're looking to sell stuff, yeah, leave me a list of what you have for sure. I might be interested. Okay, so what makes a good treasure hunt, K-Pro? I think one, it's got to be a good story. Beacon Star is a good story. Xavier Marks is a really good story. I mean, just to read it, just to read the story is fun. And then you go back, you find the clues, you try and find it. So I think its story is important.
Well, yes and no, because I can think when I read the Beacon Star book, it was fun to read. When I read the poem, Forest Poem, it's a cool little poem. Copper Dan's Hunt, I thought that was super fun as well. When Beth did the artwork, I thought that was beautiful. I can't think Xavier Marks, the cutest little story ever. When I look at all of those, I think it does have to be a good delivery or a good way to deliver it, but I can't think of one I haven't liked.
Well, I don't think Byron Price, The Secret, was fun to read. If you've ever read the book, I mean, there's the verses and then there's the whole story. I don't think that was really fun to read. It was kind of hard to read. You know what I mean? Maybe
I agree.
The 80s. I don't know. But
Yeah, so that can't be discounted. I agree, because I would say like the Beacon Star, The Secret, yeah, that wasn't a fun read. And I'm sure that new huge encyclopedia of Bart's that you have is probably not going to be as fun. So yeah, the delivery of it is probably a good one. So it needs to have a good vessel for communication. I really I don't even remember all the details of Beacon Star. I just remember at the end going, that was fun to read, even if it wasn't a treasure hunt. It was fun. Like the doors and all that. So
and the Forrest Fenn's treasure was a little different. Those were stories, but they were based on his real life. I mean, that was more of an autobiography of Forrest that he wrote. So,
but you didn't need the book. I take the vessel. Well, let's talk about that. Forrest just, well, it's hard because I don't want to be negative to Forrest, but it is what it is. Forrest said you could solve it with the poem. That's not how Jack solved it. So is it the poem plus something else? Like in the Copper Dan hunt, we had a coin. We needed that coin that but it was defined what we needed, and the map. So we had the map, or was the map required or not? I don't remember.
The map wasn't required. The map just gave you the search area. Like, they just said, hey, this is the area in the Rocky Mountains. So it wasn't required, but it could be helpful to know, is this part of it or not? Oh, yeah. Nice, Robert. Good deal.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that there's a lot of, the Las Vegas one that you were on TV about. Did you like whatever that was? That was a full. I don't like the full book thing. Well, except for like an Xavier Marks book, because there's not a lot. When you have entire books like Vegas Die, it's a cool story and all, but there's so many places like AGK. AGK's got solved pretty quick, but there was a lot to read. I don't like that lengthy of a vessel for delivery of the hunt.
Well, those are really novels. So there's a treasure hunt, but it's in a novel. You've got to read this entire big book to figure it out. You really got to read it, then go back through it a couple times. It makes it more difficult for sure because the clues are scattered. That's the other thing is, would you rather have a puzzle that, hey, solve this puzzle, or would you rather have, hey, read this book and you figure out what the clues are? Kind of like Xavier Marks. We have one puzzle by Jesse Eisenberg, but the rest of it, we just kind of have to figure it out. You know what I mean? In Vegas Die, there's no obvious puzzles. You kind of had to read the story and just figure it out.
Well, and that's what I mean. AGK and any of the novels, I don't like that personally. I don't like that because there's just way too many of the long stories. Exactly. If Copper, Dan, and I agree, then it's right, because we never agree on anything. So I just think in general, then we look at, but Xavier Marks is a good example. I don't consider that a novel. It's a short story. A comic book would be perfect, I think. Like that's like the perfect go-between. I like a story that you can embed some hints, but there's not, 500 pages and it's, I mean, I did we did like a 4-page hunt and people were overwhelmed with that because there were so many different ways you could go. So yeah, that's my opinion on that piece. So, like no novel, but the story delivery is important, whatever that is. And I personally, what do you think about this? Having a memorabilia or something that you can, like, we have a really nice book from Forrest, but like Copper Dan's Hunt, and we have a coin. And like Copper Dan's Hunt, I love that we have something that memorialized that after the fact. So I think something that is a part of it, whether it's a sorry, my email came up. I'm not sure why. So I think something merchandisey is fun. I don't think that's a requirement, but I think it's fun. I think it makes it, I don't know, better hunt, if you will, whatever it is. Like if the delivery of it comes with a coin, it comes with a, I don't know, item of some sort, a little figurine, a little something. I like the collectibles aspect, but we're collectors and that's why. So
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
The coin was cool. I mean, most treasure hunts are a book. That's been the traditional form, is you get the book. But there could also be other things that go along with it, for sure.
Look at Holy's question. I think you and I are going to differ on our answers.
See, that's why I like more the cipher based, because here's the puzzle, and when you get the answer, it's going to be self-confirming. You know it's right. The subjective imagination one, it can just take you anywhere, and that's the problem with those. They're harder to solve actually than the cipher one, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to frame it a little differently. I think specialized knowledge, if it is knowing advanced ciphers and knowing how to put it in whatever Mike's system is that he puts in and it spits something out. I don't like that. I also don't like local knowledge. Like you needed to know that the largest fish was found at 9 Mile Hole through fishing. I don't like that. I do like, I'm going to call it cleverness. A clever riddle has one answer and rules everything else out. So when you look at some of the hunts, and I just remember this in Copper Dan's, there was something about pointing. I don't remember. And somebody was like, "Oh, that's clever." I like cleverness, and cleverness usually isn't specialized knowledge. It's looking at things differently. So I like the imagination piece. If there's a play on words that it doesn't seem obvious, but after the fact you go, "Oh, that was it. That's so obvious," kind of thing. And I've had those because I love having little aha moments along the way. Xavier Marks is a great example. When use Google Earth, it was like, "Oh, yes, that's it. I like that." That didn't take specialized knowledge. You had to be clever to kind of solve that. We found out that a couple of the names of like no T and all of that, they weren't actual ones. We know there's something there. We know there's something in some of these areas, and you get the little aha moments. I love the little aha moments. That's what makes me excited. It's like boots on the ground. You find something kind of thing. Okay. That was my long-winded answer.
I've never heard April compliment my hunt this much. That's pretty fun.
Well, I think there were some good pieces to it. The problem that you had, and this is where I think we have to weigh things as well, is the puzzle was too easy. Even though there were pieces in it that I think were clever, it was too easy and it became a foot race. I do not like foot races. U.S. Treasure Hunt was not good. I think U.S. Treasure Hunt did it intentionally and Copper Dan did it unintentionally. And it's probably the biggest concern of an originator is how quickly can it be solved. And that was the hardest one, but there was really, really good aspects. It's almost like there's a best practice that we can find in each one of these hunts that if you take each part of each one and you could put it all together, it makes a perfect hunt. Funny thing about this secret is that back then they thought a book with just the images and verses wouldn't sell. So Byron had his friend from the Lampoon Bulk
it with pics.
Bulk it with pics.
Those dolls are creepy. I don't think the dolls are attractive at all. Those things look demonic, if you ask me. That's why I was like, it's not really a fun book to read. Like for me, I don't know. Yeah, there's a weird format. I understand the poem and the poem and the painting, putting those together, but
okay. Well, our 10 minutes is up.
yeah, an hour goes by quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But those, I thought we had a pretty good list of kind of best practices. And now if you go back and we have this big list of all those things we talked about, what is the best treasure hunt ever? Maybe give top 3.
Well, one part is I think it helps if people have an idea of where it is. Like Xavier Marks was anywhere in the U.S. Now we know it's New York. For my treasure adventures, she's doing one per state. So there's going to be one here in Nevada. I think that's helpful to know. I'm not going to buy the one over in Michigan. Like, would I not get Xavier Marks if I knew from the beginning it was in New York? Yeah, we would still buy it and work on it because we know people in New York that could go boots on the ground. But yeah, I like the idea of it being narrowed down relatively quickly, I guess, if that makes sense. That you have an idea, because then you can decide how much time do I want to put into it. The one that's here in Nevada, it'll just be easier.
I 100% agree. Like, and I hate to say, we would have bought Xavier either way. I won't put as much time into it now because we know it's in New York. Even though we had a search partner in New York, we have some people in New York. But I would just say in general, knowing Rocky Mountains at the beginning of the Forest Fen hunt, it was only north of Santa Fe. There was people because it was funny because I asked, this was maybe a year ago, where did Stephanie search? And she said North Dakota was one of her search states. And I was like, what? I like laughed. And she's like, you have to remember in the beginning, it wasn't the Rockies. Forrest did basically what Xavier did and narrowed it to the Rockies, but only at like a year or two after the hunt started. So I do think narrowing it rather quickly is important. So.
But yeah, I hope there's $1 million treasure hunt. I mean, that would be huge if there's $1 million treasure hunt. Netflix should have a treasure hunt at the end of their thing, but you know, I haven't heard anything about that. But they should. I mean, that would a better way to pay it forward than to do another treasure hunt. Maybe that's what Shiloh's going to do, K-Pro. Maybe that's the epicness and fun. He's going to do his own treasure hunt at the end. It'll be at the end.
I think we have some developments that are going to be delaying some things. Boo to crappy people.
For Netflix?
Yeah, I think that the legal situation, and I'm not talking about McCracken, the legal situation needs to be complete before the family comes out. And I think there's some people that really suck, and you know who you are. You suck.
The problem is any legal situation isn't based on any evidence, isn't based on any reality. So
right, but still you have to go through the process. You have to go through the process of them filing, them getting it thrown out, etc. So it's going to take more time, and I think that sucks. So that is why we've gone over best practices, you guys, because if Forrest would have done all of this, though, I don't think we'd be in any different of a situation. So that's why I don't think price pool bigger is better is the way to go. It gave gold fever to some people that just can't get out of their own way. So yeah, we have legal stuff a brewing again. And
well, I'll just say, in my opinion, none of that should prevent the family from doing Netflix. Because it's not.
Oh, Netflix is already done. Yeah, Netflix is already done, but Netflix isn't coming out until next year. I was talking about Shiloh being able to come out and talk with us. I think the legal stuff has to be done. Netflix is already done. Family's in it. It's done. But Netflix isn't going to come out until at least 2024. We were going to hear from Shiloh. Shiloh may still come out, but I think that him, there's more legal issues that have surfaced. So I think it may delay some things. I don't know yet. I just got a little bit of info enough to say, oh, this sucks. So, but once the doc actually hits, we'll go over it. But at this point, we're just going to leave it be. Maybe we won't go over it because it's not other than just high level. I don't know. I think it's all our legal system is broken in this country.
No, I would disagree, but that's on the family for not squashing the lawsuit back when they could have. It's real simple. This person's crazy. This makes no sense. Throw it out. That's just my opinion. I don't know the details, but let me go back to something you just said. I always assumed, and this is just me, maybe I'm wrong, is that if Shiloh and the family's in Netflix, well, then that trumps whatever Shiloh was going to put out. In other words, he's not going to put something out. It's going to be in Netflix. I thought that.
I don't think because he has his book. It sounds like the book is timed before. So usually it's whatever Netflix has is exclusive, but they probably, I don't know, did an exclusion. And guys, no, you guys are all guessing people. No, it's not anybody you guys are talking about. You'll see, I shouldn't have even brought it up. I'm sorry. But just
we're bringing it up, K-Pro.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I'm like a human being and I think it sucks. So I'm going to just say it sucks.
I think
but no, I think that, I think whatever, Shiloh and group say in Netflix is going to be cool, but I think the book sounds like it's been in work longer. I don't know, or both of them say the same thing. I don't think they'll contradict each other, but I don't know which is going to have some huge epic reveal, which one comes first, which one comes second. Like I would think you release the book right at about Netflix time, but what if Netflix, I don't know. I don't have any information.
Yes.
Uh-oh, Randy's here. Shh.
Oh, I mentioned it. It doesn't mean I agree with it, but yeah, I did mention it, Randy. You should watch this from the beginning because we talk about. Let's go over what we said, Gabriel. Do you have notes on what we came up with?
I have notes,
So
sir.
this is from a searcher's perspective, not so much a creator, right? This is from a searcher's perspective.
No, I think originator. I think an originator needs to have the searcher in mind. So we have been on both sides, and this is just a list of what we think are best practices that an originator should do if we were originators, and what you should do or a searcher would want to have as a part of we're going to call it the puzzle and the management of a hunt. There's two different topics there. Okay. Mike says, I disagree. Bigger the prize pool, the better, like 100K, bigger, bigger, bigger. I don't think bigger is better because we have too many crazy people that file lawsuits.
But again, that's a creator's problem. Creator. So in other words, when David Blaine did the 100,000 treasure hunt, the publishing house took care of the lawsuit. Sassy didn't have to deal with that. So if a treasure hunt does it the right way, where they take care of the crazy people, then you can have as big a prize pool as you want.
You can. What I'm saying is, as an originator, would you do $100,000 hunts to keep crazy away, or would you do $1 million hunt? I would say do a smaller. I don't like the really, really small, but like a $50,000 hunt, $75,000 hunt. I think doing multiple ones of those is better than $1 million hunt, because the $1 million hunt has someone trying to kidnap your granddaughter. Outside of lawsuits, you have people breaking into your home. You have people doing those things because it's gold fever.
Yeah, I guess. I guess you just have to do things a certain way. That's all. That apparently these treasure hunter creators haven't done them the right way so far.
Okay, let me keep going over this list. You have to put the solve out after the fact in some time fashion. Okay, it'll come out in a month's time, 6 months' time, whatever it is. It is not in an illegal place. We like the idea of a proxy item, at least for part of it. I guess there's a hunt that's coming out or came out that half of it is the money's in it or coins are in it, and half of it you have to contact the originator, because then you'll know when it's solved. One place for all the clues. And we talked a little bit about you, Randy, because everything's on your Facebook, I think, but it's also on YouTube. But those are the two areas. And you don't like go to an event and drop something, go on Discord and drop something, go on Thor and drop something, talk to people and say, oh, I'll give you a hint, ask me a question. That's not a good practice. Clues are okay as long as they are in a certain amount, a certain time frame. Don't make it too hard, Randy, if that's your real name. Randy makes it too hard. In my opinion, it's too hard. And also Xavier's getting to that point. It's been over a year. I think moving it along so it doesn't take, Mike said 5 years. I thought 1 year, and Randy thinks 30 years. So you guys are wrong and I'm right.
Well, okay. Going back to the prize pool, I do agree after thinking about it. Usually when there's $1 million prize pool, usually the treasure hunt ends because they realize they're not going to sell what they thought they were going to sell. So having a larger prize pool, I think, does have issues. So unless you do it like Forrest Fenn, where, hey, I'm going to do it and I don't care about book sales type thing. But most people aren't like that.
Well, and Randy, part of the reason that this came up is you say that you only know of 3. There was a ranking recently of the top 10 treasure hunts of all time, and Masquerade was number 1. And it was like, Masquerade was found not by the, and another one was a part of it was called off and never given. And the puzzle might be good, but the treasure hunting management was not. Okay, let me keep going. No ciphers at all in any way. Mike agreed the most on that and said he really doesn't like ciphers. I say no, he says yes, so we don't agree. A treasure trove. See, we're thinking of Masquerade.
Treasure Trove's the one that Randy and his son found, one of the emeralds, the jewels. So of course Randy likes that one.
Well, but he said $1 million hunt. Okay, anyway. No intentional red herrings. People will make them up without any issue. See, long way to tributary agrees with me. Charging for entry is okay in comparison. Like a less than $10 book has about a $5,000 prize pool. Forrest had about a $50 book and has $1 million prize pool. That is okay in our minds. It's okay to have time release pieces. So you release part of the puzzle at the beginning, but you have to say it. You will not be able to solve all of this, we don't think, and there will be one clue every month. That's okay. No personal information. Don't make part of the solve like that is your kid's name or something, because people then research that. Rules and safety are important. When is it accessible type of land, if that's appropriate? You shouldn't have to get in water, etc. Those kinds of things. Confirm the general area at some point. And we talked about Xavier being a good example of it was all the United States, just like the Forest Fen Hunt used to be just north of Santa Fe, 8.25 miles, but then it got refined a lot more to specific areas of like the Rocky Mountains, New York. We like that refining. It needs a good vessel. And this is where your ears should have burned. We loved your story. I don't like the bigger novels. Your story is probably a little bit too lengthy just because there's so much in it that we know are clues and things. Either short stories, Xavier Marks, or whatever that vessel is. Sometimes it's a painting, sometimes, whatever it is. I like the merch idea. Like when we look at Copper Dan's gold coin, you get something coming out of the hunt. There's maps and different things. No novel, story, something. I don't know. Imagination is definitely more important than specialized knowledge. I don't think specialized knowledge, advanced ciphers are good, but researching stuff is okay. What did I miss, Mike? There's my list. There's my Randy 2-minute summary of our 1 hour show.
Yeah, I guess that's about right. A lot of it's subjective. A lot of people think, different than what we came up with, and that's fine. But there's never going to be a treasure hunt that satisfies everybody. That's for sure. It's the prize pool. Some person thinks it's not enough. You know what I mean? There's always going to be issues. How much do you charge for a thing? Randy went with the low amount. Bart K went for a high amount, $100. And I think each creator has a right to charge whatever they want. But for a searcher, probably maybe the $50 mark, somewhere up to maybe $50, somewhere around there is probably about good.
And I'm going to add in, there was like that crisis with Johnny's Treasure Quest when he was doing the candy bars and he went on Greg's show and all that. He handled that really well. Like there was going to be mix-ups. He's running a business, and I know some people talked about no treasure hunter originator should be like making money off of this, but this is his actual job. And so he, I think, handled it really appropriately, took it straight on, said this is how I think he gave a refund, and then he did something. I don't remember, but he did a really good crisis management, seeing the searchers as kind of the customer, which I think was really good. So there you have it. There it is. See, there's Sassy. We've been talking about, you need to rewatch this too, because we talked about David Blaine's hunt and lawsuits, etc. So, but Mike, let's go back to that. So you think it's a treasure hunting originator's responsibility to hire the lawyers in case somebody gets sued?
If they get sued, yeah. If in other words, they have to know there's a possibility of getting sued, and you don't just, you have to think of that as a creator. I think you have to think of that, right?
Okay, so we have Forrest who passed, and then the family said, Jack, you're on your own. That's why he, I think, was outed himself, because he didn't want to. So do you think it's a responsibility? Let's say we did $1 million hunt. If somebody gets sued, do you think the finder gets sued because of whatever fraud? It was never out there. They stole my solve. Like right now we have, we have a couple different examples, but basically he's not the real finder. If the finder gets sued, should the originator cover the costs?
If the solution is ironclad, and you know what I mean? So far, none of the lawsuits I've ever seen in a treasure hunt had any merit, had any value. So yes, you have to spend the money to defend it, but you should get that back when you go after the person that brought up a frivolous lawsuit, right? That's kind of how it's supposed to work.
And I couldn't disagree more, because there was that one hunt that if you worked with someone, you had to tell them what their partners were like, and they got into, you couldn't work in teams and all of that. I think that's on it. If Forrest did a hunt and then somebody found it and they either had a search partner that they got in an argument with, or other crazy searchers want to sue them, I think that's on them to defend. I don't think it's on the originator.
Well, the problem with Forrest Fens is he hit it in an illegal park. So you don't think there's no responsibility for Forrest of, yeah, Jack didn't want to come out with it. Now he's getting sued because Forrest.
Yeah, there's an anomaly there. But like search partner issues and all that, like someone stole my solve.
That's between searchers. I'm talking about the creator. Yeah, I'm talking about the creator. It's just something you have to think of. That's all. It's something you have to think about. I mean, there's a new treasure hunt coming out that nobody knows about yet, which can't release it yet, but I've heard what it's going to be, and we'll go over it. That'll be like the newest treasure hunt, the Treasure Hunt Amusement Park. Yeah, you don't even know, and I'm not.
What the hell? You don't keep secrets from your wife? Oh, I forgot to tell you, there's a new lawsuit with the Forrest Fenn hunt.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes out, and I don't know when, we can talk about it then, how they set it up, etc. How much it costs, all that fun stuff.
Did they tell you not to tell me?
No.
What's wrong with you?
Well, I didn't even think about it until now, actually. Yeah, every hunt should release the solve. I think we all agree on that one. There's got to be a solution that comes out. And
that goes back to the previous one of don't put it in an illegal spot. That would have solved the issue of don't release the solve. The only reason the solve wasn't released was because it was in an illegal spot that they negotiated out of their criminal charges. I mean, so yeah, like in general, you almost don't even think, how sometimes you see these little safety tags on something that says like on your mattress, it says like, don't eat the mattress and don't light candles on this mattress. And you wonder where that rule came from. I think, and there's always a backstory. I think every hunt don't have an illegal aspect to your hunt. It's kind of like so obvious, but even like Forrest he didn't care.
X Marks the Spot, the podcast did release a solution, and it was a horrible solution. It was so complicated. There's no way anybody ever would have been able to figure that out. I mean, it was bad. So that's one of those where they released the solution. I mean, they ended it abruptly. I mean, it was just the setup was just bad.
Well, but let's talk about that. They didn't release X Marks the Spot, did not release it. They asked a YouTuber to go over a slide deck, which I give a lot of credit to Ben because he stayed in it and tried as hard as he could to make it not seem the shit show that it was. I think he was supportive and helpful, but I do not think the Forrest Fenn hunt, you don't like, oh, Cowlazars, here's the answer. You guys could do that. Forrest Fenn family, if you guys decided to release that 9-clue video and you needed someone, but that one's totally different. But no, they needed to own it and they didn't want to. And now they just disappeared. Blackbeard just disappeared. Not a good one. Who actually managed one really well was Tumble Bear Load. He had videos out. He walked through it. He wasn't talking with any searchers. And then he did run away. But that could be, I don't know. Tumble Bear Load is actually one of my favorite hunts that we worked on for a very, very short time. And it sucks how it ended. But if Masquerade can be one of the top 10 or other hunts that get called off can be in the top 10, Tumble Bear Load is in the top 10. It's legendary.
But it never became a hunt. There was no rules. It was just, here's some videos, and if you find it, fine. It was a Forrest Fenn hunt. So I don't think it was a great treasure hunt at all because it never actually happened. It never really became a treasure hunt. The idea, I think you're in love with the idea.
A little while. He had the stuff out there. We saw a video of him putting it out there.
Or was it? Then as soon as he turned that camera off, he dug it up and put it back in his safe. You don't know. You just don't know.
Okay, that's one. Should the originator be public? I think right now we have $1 million hunt out there that supposedly is from some guy that we don't know and we can't confirm. And you were told about it like a year ago and you didn't.
Oh, Neo Vaden?
I think maybe.
Yeah, well, that's the same with Tumble Bear Load. If you're just anonymously going to make a video, well, who's really going to work on it? Yeah, I do think you should be public in some way, shape, or form. Something. You have to put something out to prove what you're doing. Yeah, there's got to be some credibility to what you're doing. Anybody can say they're doing $1 million hunt. Obviously, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Yeah, Forrest Fenn showed the gold. Forrest Fenn was a millionaire. He gave the background to say, yeah, I'm doing this. I have the means to do it, and I'm going to do it. So, yeah, it's so subjective. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do hunts. Some are good and some are bad, and it's all really up to the individual working on it if they like it or not.
Yeah, Xavier Mark says it perfectly. I think the most important thing is there's a solution, a winner, and a prize given. I don't like hunts where time frames where they never give out the promised prize. Ooh. And you really have to define and know the legalities. AGK did their hunt and they were told legally they needed to get a copy of the ID. So if the person didn't turn it in tax-wise and report it, that They would have to, and they asked the person that won, I think his name was Christian, and he's like, that's not in your rules. Legally, you can't make me. And they just had they parted ways, but not in so you really need to know the legalities of that. And especially because we do have treasure hunters that turn stuff in to court systems and investigators and things. So you really need to know the legalities of your situation, especially when the prize pool does get bigger. Is it a contest? Isn't it? Certain states, etc. All of that needs to be, thought through. Thought through, honey. Thought through.
There is a lot to think through. I mean, or you could just hide something and say, hey, if it's free, I think you can do whatever you want. If it's free, you know what I mean? If it's free, I can go put whatever anywhere if it's free. If I'm selling a product, if I'm selling a book that says, hey, in this book there's clues, I think there's a certain way you have to go about it.
See, and I disagree.
Was free. He can do whatever he wanted to because it's free.
So I disagree, and here's why. $50 is not much to me. 50 hours of my time working on a hunt is more important to me than $50 or even 8 hours. Time is more precious than anything. So I think a lot of people think they can do things as long as it's free, but I disagree. I think it should not only be, it could be free or not, but you have to do these things, or you should do these things if you're going to have a good experience for everybody either way. My goodness, something's going on with my glasses. So I just think all of these things should be done whether you charge or not, because quite honestly, $7 for Randy's book, that's nothing, but it's time. That's where, you've spent more time, and think of your minimum wage times all the hours you've worked on Beacon Star. And that could be time with kids and other things. So yeah, Randy owes you $6 million. Okay.
Yeah, you all have to decide how much time to work on it. That's true. It's just like these Xavier Marks clues. We've all put way too much time into them. Way back in the square with the lead. What the hell does that mean? And nobody's been able to figure it out. And it gets frustrating after a while. But anyway, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's probably bad. But we'll see. We'll stop.
Mike's frustrated. Can you tell? And I do have to say, I think you guys should do something new in the Zooms, because I think it's like a group think frustration now. And so I think Mike, why lead though? Why lead? No, it's not lead. It's like, this is the first time I've seen you a little frustrated with the hunt. Everything else, yeah.
People go in different directions, and it's just you don't agree, and that's fine. That's how it works. When you have a bunch of different people, different personality types, and different skill levels, they go in different directions. That's all.
Ooh, you said some have different skill levels than you. Ooh,
true. Not me, than anybody. But anyway. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. We can solve the Beacon Star, too. All right. But some of the celebrity clues have not been solved, and they've been out a year. What does that tell you? I don't know. I can't say, but I can say my opinion. It's all just my opinion, I guess.
Well, and Xavier is a good example, though. I would say, like Beacon Star, I don't know how many people were working on it earlier on. Now I know it's too hard. Xavier, there's been a group of at least 10 to 15 of you working on it every single day in that Zoom for hours every day for months. In my opinion, it's too hard. That's my opinion. It'll eventually, there's a clue that'll come out. I already think the best minds are on it. So I don't think of what we have now, it's going to be solved until there's a clue that breaks it loose a little bit. That's just my opinion.
I'll be doing an Xavier Marks video probably in the next week. If you even started to read the paintings for Xavier, the braided one, for example. Well, it depends what you mean by read. There's obviously a method to solving some things in the book that we haven't figured out yet. So it depends what you mean by read.
So, okay. Mike, I want to go tangent here. There's a little heart at the bottom of our YouTube channels now. Is that something you turned on? Because it is very irritating. Because I can't see like the first person, and they're talking about it in chat. I noticed it as well. Oh yes, and now you can do different things.
That's because we love you, everybody. Yeah, no, that's not us. I don't know what that is. So Lucky Digger, I don't know if you knew this, but Xavier Marks is in New York because they did a puzzle, and the solution is it's in New York. So Xavier Marks, the creators, have said it's in New York. So the Bob Ross puzzles, I don't know, maybe you're not aware of it. Xavier Marks is definitely in the state of New York. That we do know. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it won't go away on mine either, stupid thing. So I just have to wait, and I can kind of push up and see anyway.
I'm looking at I don't know. It's not there for me.
Do you see yours? Maybe it's only for special people. I see it. It's a heart, and if you push on it, it gives you 100%, a little confetti thing, a little like.
You don't have to pay to hit it, do you? That could. There's super stickers where you can.
Oh
like,
Jesus! I hope not. No, I don't have a credit card.
No,
on
it'll
mine.
come up this thing.
Okay.
Yeah, Lucky Digger. You need to go to XavierMarks.com. It'll explain it. Go to XavierMarks.com. Okay. Oh, it's only on phones, Copper Dan says. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm on it on the thing and I don't see it. So only on phones. Yeah, I don't know.
It's on my iPad too, so maybe it's only on. I don't know. Don't know.
No, it's a PDF, Lucky Digger. They put out a Bob Ross PDF with some puzzles in it. Okay, everybody, that's it. We all have our own opinions, but one thing's for sure: we need to solve the Beacon Star. We need to solve Xavier Marks. Those are two things I know. New treasure hunt coming out when I don't know, but we'll have that. We'll cover that when it comes.
You know what? Are we doing date night tonight?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'm going to be hearing about this new treasure hunt. You don't keep secrets from me. My God, and I need to know who to start bribing now. And I need to do the Beacon Star video. I figured it out. And so I've got to do the video.
When's the Fen News coming? Well, you should watch our last show. We do Fen News every single week. Depends what you mean by that. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks. We'll do a video again tomorrow. So we'll see you then. 24 hours. Make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. And yeah, we'll see you next time.